Hello, Kate.
Oh, hi Vasili, how are you?
Very well, mate. How did I end up in here?
I don't know, but you're in the Museums Victoria Entomology or Insect Collection. Welcome.
Thank you. These are insects in here?
We've got about 1 million specimens in here, Vasili.
Are you kidding me?
No. We count the legs and divide by 6.
Oh, is it that many? Wow. So this is, what are you doing here? What do you got here?
Well, I'm having a look at these ones here. These are called darkling beetles. They're called tenebrionids, and they're really, really useful in the garden, actually. They're predaceous beetles, so they go around eating things like aphids or pests in the garden for you.
Oh, beautiful. So these are actually good predators for us.
They're good to have in your garden.
Wonderful.
Excellent to have in your garden.
Because they look like nasty ones.
They do. Well, as I said, they're predaceous. So if you're an insect, you wouldn't want to see something like that coming
if you're an aphid, you wouldn't. But
exactly.
As a human, I'm looking, wow, that could do a lot of damage in my garden, but it won't. It actually eats the aphids.
Exactly.
Wonderful. So how long have you been doing this for?
Oh, Vasili. Well, I've been at the museum for 38 years.
You're kidding me.
Which is a long time.
So what did you start off as?
Well, I started out as birds. My dad was a birdo, and right from very young, he took me out on the field, so I got a love for nature. And then I was interested in birds, but when I got to university, I just found my love was in insects. And
you started collecting?
Yeah, I started collecting. Oh, yeah, I used to drive all over the place and collect, and I put up light sheets to bring in moths and that, so I became a very avid collector.
The collection here is how many specimens again?
Well, the entire museum collection's about 17 million specimens.
Of insects?
Of vertebrates and invertebrates.
And everything.
The insects is about 2 million specimens.
Wow. And you've got them all here?
We've got them all here. Yeah.
And how many of those are Australian?
Well, about 2/3 of them are Australian. We've got about 1/3 overseas collection and about 2/3 are Australian collection.
We're talking about it. Let me start seeing some. Have you got a display you can show us?
I do, without a doubt.
Let's go have a look.
Here are those large African beetles.
They are huge.
Look at the size of it. As I said, about the size of your hand. And they're dung beetles.
You're kidding.
That's what they are. There's big animals in Africa.
Wow, so that's what they do. They eat all the dung.
That's true.
So they don't exist in Australia?
No, they don't. And there's a lovely, interesting story about Australian dung beetles.
Tell me about it.
They were used to possums and kangaroo little scats, dried little scats. Then we brought cattle in.
But how big were our beetles?
Well, the beetles are around about the size of your thumb, about the size of your thumb.
Like these ones here?
With these ones here.
Yeah.
So our dung beetles are the right size, but they weren't used to the big wet cow pats. They only used to the small little scats on that. So all of a sudden we had all this cow pat covering Australia. And not only was the cow pat there, we had millions of flies were breeding in them. So they had to import dung beetles from South Africa to be able to attack.
You're kidding. Why? Because our beetles wouldn't do it.
Our beetles wouldn't touch it.
They walked up to it and said, we're not going to have a bar of that.
Too big, too wet. Hey, I've got something to keep you company while you're here. We have a stick insect.
What is that?
There we go, Vasili. You've got a pet for the day.
A twig. A walking twig.
A walking twig.
A walking twig.
This is called the Goliath.
Wait, does it bite?
No, it doesn't bite. You'll find it tickle. The ends of the claw, end of the feet,
I can't feel anything now.
It's on your hat. It's on your hat.
Okay.
That's really cool. That'll keep you happy.
All right, just remind me not to sit on it, eh?
No, that's true.
So what else have we got here? How you going? Yeah, don't adjust your TV sets, folks. Yep. This is the working outfit. It's what we wear when we're actually digging out in the garden. And today we're preparing this veggie garden here for planting an edible garden. But first, we're going to get all this weed out. We've got cape weed everywhere. Have a look at it. So at least a cubic metre of it that I've dug up already. They're not very deep. You need a garden fork, pop them up, turn them over, shake off the excess soil so you don't lose too much soil. I've come here to get rid of them all, turn the garden beds over, prepare it nicely, put all our veggies in there and sit back and watch them grow. We've got weeds everywhere. We've taken them out and what I found was some bark or mulch. And you can see the mulch is blending in through the soil. Now, where there wasn't any mulch and the soil was exposed to the sunlight, it went super hard. And this is an example of some of that soil. It does crumble once you get into it, but you don't want it to go off like that. You don't want it to go hard because the roots are going to suffer, no air gets in there, and the moisture certainly doesn't get in there either. And right here is where the soil hasn't been broken. You look at the garden fork, just trying to get in it, and it's dusty, dry, and this is the mulch that I'm talking about, the sawdust that's been left in stockpiles everywhere. It's beautiful, it's starting to break down, the microbes are getting into that, add our manures into that as well. So I've come up to here, that's about 6 metres I reckon. It's 20 metres in length. You can do the sums. 14 metres to go. Let's waste any more time, let's start digging.
If you like Vasili's Garden, then you'll love the spring edition of Vasili's Garden to Kitchen magazine. Available at all good news agencies. Subscribe now at vasilisgarden.com.
We've had so many inquiries about head lice, more particularly coming from Queensland and New South Wales viewers. So I thought I'd put a few little things together that I've found to work quite well in clinical practice over 35 years or so. This combination is a really nice one. So we have some baby shampoo, we have some coconut oil, and we have some tea tree oil. Now you could also use some aniseed oil, so either one, so the tea tree or aniseed. For a really bad infestation, I'd probably recommend the aniseed or anise oil. The way to make this is you really need to have it quite thick because the head lice need to actually be killed off. And in order to be able to do that, we need to suffocate them. So we get the baby shampoo, we then put coconut oil in, and this is about the combination that you will be doing to start with. And then with your tea tree or aniseed or anise oil, you then put in 3 drops and then mix it in together. Now, the more you mix that in and agitate it, the coconut oil is going to break down. And if it was like a summer's day, that coconut oil would be a liquid. So it would be a matter of blending that together and then with some gloves on, massage that oil combined all the way through the hair, nice and thick you want it, and then put a shower cap on because you need to suffocate the nits. That's the first thing. But now we've got to kill off those eggs, and that's what the tea tree oil is going to do for you. Now leave it on for a couple of hours, and that's very, very important. About 2 hours, and then wash it all out with baby shampoo. Now baby shampoo is really good because there's no caustic in there, and so for children it's going to work really quite nicely for you. So that's a great combination to be able to start getting on top of these infestations of nits that we're getting around Australia. Now the main thing is do this once a week, every week when the children start school, to make sure that you can get on top of any of those eggs that are still hanging around. So prevention is going to be far better than trying to create a treatment. So folks, until next time, please find happiness in every moment.
Let me show you here. What do you reckon these are?
Blowflies.
Blowflies. They're actually blue-banded bees.
Blue-banded bees?
Now, if you have tomato plants in your backyard, they need what's called buzz pollination. Most plants have got an anther with the pollen on the outside, and bees can scrape it. But the tomato plant's got an anther with the pollen on the inside. So a bee's got to come along, wrap its body around it, change its and shake it. And these are the best things to have when you.
So if you see these in the garden, they're not a pest.
No, not at all.
Exactly. So we shouldn't be spraying these ones either.
We shouldn't be spraying a lot in the garden, really, unless you've got a big monoculture and you're a commercial farmer. In your backyard, you shouldn't be spraying much because only 2% of our insects are pests. So you're killing just 2%, and all the beneficials you're knocking off as well.
So 2% of the insect population species are pests,
and the rest are beneficial.
And the amount of damage that 2% does is minimal to your garden.
Minimal to your garden.
And unless it's in plague proportions, you should just leave it alone because the actual predators will come in and take control of that.
That's right.
That is impressive.
That's impressive.
Unfortunately, we are still spraying out there.
We are. If you've got, as you said, if you've got a large infestation, knock it down.
Knock it down.
But generally, the balance will be there in nature.
So, can you run me through some of the insects that exist in the garden that we should be looking out for?
Well, I tell you, I've got a lovely lot here.
What's this?
And these are your gall insects. If you go along to almost any eucalypt tree, when you see lots of small ones like these are the males, and the large single like canker, that's the female. So they're the males, and they're the females.
Okay, we're talking about gall, like a wasp that lays its egg.
That's true.
In or on the branch of
That's
or the leaf of the tree, and the males are in clusters like that.
That's right.
And a single gall is a female.
It's a female.
And what's in there? That's the eggs.
That's the originally it's the grub.
It's the grub.
It's the grub. What actually happens? The way that a gall forms is that, as you said, the female lays an egg, and the egg comes out of the little larvae and it begins to feed on the plant, and the plant gets irritated. So it surrounds the irritation with more tissue. Which is exactly what the insect wants.
And that's what happens with humans too. The same thing. So you get irritation, you get white blood cells.
You rub it on that. So as the irritation continues, the gall grows around the developing insect inside of that.
Okay. What about a lemon tree?
Well, a lemon tree. Come over here.
It's a beautiful spring day and I'm surrounded by colourful flowers and plants that nature has to offer. And what better way to spend it than with a smoothie, of course. In today's recipe, I'm adding 40 grams of fresh blueberries. They are an anti-aging and anti-inflammatory. They help with circulatory problems and are loaded with antioxidants. Next, I have half of a beetroot. It's an excellent blood cleanser and blood tonic. The vitamin C in beetroot is good for getting you back on your feet after an illness. It helps the immune system and combats mental and physical exhaustion. I'm also adding a teaspoon of coconut oil, which contains antiviral, antibacterial and antifungal properties and helps keep your colon healthy. I have a teaspoon of psyllium husk. This is a soluble fibre commonly known as a forming laxative that helps relieve constipation and promote regularity. I'm also adding a teaspoon of acai powder, 1 banana, 1 cup of almond milk, and 3 pitted dates. Kuving's SV500 vacuum blender has the latest vacuum technology that detects the amount of air and removes it from the container. So what are the benefits? Well, you end up with a super smooth beverage with brighter colours and no separation of ingredients. The SV500 has an ultra-high strength 3D stainless steel blade and a whopping 3.5 horsepower motor, able to pulverise any ingredients you add. This tastes so good, it's bursting with flavour. If you'd like to taste this recipe and many more just like it, visit our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. See you next time.
Just where the mulch is, it's nice and moist. All the soil underneath there is rich, moist and alive. What a huge difference mulch makes when you add it into the garden. This is what I'm adding into our veggie garden today. So we've put our chicken manure in, we're going to mix that through, but before we do that, I'm going to be adding some black grit so I can get that calcium silicate back into the soil and the magnesium so we can keep those plants nice and green and beautiful fruit and flowers and vegetables growing. We're also putting some biochar, activated charcoal for that carbon boost, an extra kick with the smoke water, which is just going to make sure it does get that carbon it needs, and some sea salt to stimulate the root growth, and some power feed for that nice leafy green growth that we need to get, and the fruit as well. Now, on top of all that, and more importantly, we're going to blend in some bamboo mulch. It's about the best type of mulch you can get for your garden. There's no nitrogen drawdown, so it doesn't deplete the soil of all the nutrients your plants need to take up, and it doesn't suck up all the moisture out of the ground as well.
This is what you find in your lemon tree.
One of many problems
One
that
of
occur.
many problems on a
Okay,
lemon
which one's
tree.
this one?
Well, this is the one, people often find caterpillars on their lemon tree.
They do.
And they're quite a large thing.
Green one?
Green one, yeah. And little spikes on them and that.
Yep.
Well, it's a butterfly caterpillar, and this is the butterfly that comes out. You rarely see the butterfly.
I've never seen this butterfly.
Yeah. It's called Papilio anactus is its name, and this is the adult, quite a small butterfly, but this is what comes out. I have them in my backyard, and I'm happy to sacrifice a number of my lemon leaves to be able to have these flying around my backyard.
That's fair enough, because they only eat off the lemon leaf.
They do.
They don't do any other damage, really.
I reckon one leaf is enough for one caterpillar over its lifetime. So
why are we spraying for caterpillars?
So I'm happy to have these in my backyard for one lemon tree leaf.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Without a doubt.
And what about all the other insects that occur on the lemon tree, like in plague proportions too? Citrus gall wasp.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have an insect of that?
But we do. It's a very, very small wasp.
Yes.
In fact, it's extremely small to see.
Smaller than an ant.
Oh, much smaller.
Yeah.
I'd say about 1/10 of the size of an ant.
That's how small
it's minute. It's minute.
And it can cause that sort of damage
That's
on the
right,
leaf.
yeah. And what you've really got to do is to, as you know, prune.
Yeah.
Prune the infected parts and throw away. Don't put them in your compost bin.
No, because they'll just breed off.
Because they'll breed out and come out and just infect it on that.
Yeah.
Actually, the other thing is that if they come around about September, they come out of the gall and they pupate in the ground.
Yeah.
So you need to be removing the prune in wintertime.
In wintertime. So this is the gall
The
we're
gall.
talking about.
The gall, yeah.
So when they do come out, then they come back up and they're poor flyers.
Yeah.
And they reinfest the tree again.
That's right.
All
And again, it's simply the female lays an egg, irritates the plant, builds tissue around it and forms that gall, which then really mucks up everything
else in
beyond
the cycle.
the gall.
Yep. All right. What else? If you enjoy watching Vasili's Garden, well, I'm proud to announce that you now can become a Vasili's Garden member. All you need to do is go to our website and sign up today at vasilisgarden.com. So what do you get by becoming a member? Well, you get 4 new issues of our magazine per year, released seasonally and delivered right to your door. Plus, online access to all our magazine back copies that are packed full of great stories, gardening advice and delicious recipes as well. But wait, it doesn't stop there. By becoming a member, you also receive access to all our previous TV episodes from 7 as well as our C31 and SBS series as well. That includes all the guests and places I've been to, all things natural with Dr. Sandy Rogers, healthy habits with Eleni, and great gardening tips from our friend Jason. Become a member and you'll have access to our members only discount. That's up to 50% off our online products. That's right, folks, up to 50% off guaranteed. And with Christmas only around the corner, sign up to become a VIP member today and you'll go into the draw to win a $5,000 Christmas garden hamper. That's right, folks, $5,000 worth of all your favourite gardening products from sea salt, Falco, OCP, Hal's, our Easy Hand Sprayer, books and DVDs, and much, much more. You've got to be in it to win, so what are you waiting for? All the gardening advice, entertainment and products you need available to you all at the one place. That's vasilisgarden.com. For me, Vasili, Alessi.
I've got something to show you here, Vasili. Now, here are some insects. In fact, they're bees. And I collected them last month up in Cape York Peninsula.
That's tiny.
I know. Well, these
How
are,
did you catch that?
These are big for bees.
They're big for bees.
They're big for bees. I just swing a net, and they were on a beach, a place called Mutty Heads, which is just south of Bamaga, right at the very tip of Australia. But these were collected last month. But have a look down here at these 2 moths. The label reads, taken in West Caves on the Isle of Wight, 28th of August, 1796. 1796 by my friend Mrs. Thompson.
You're kidding me.
So
18, 19, 20, 200 plus years.
So there's last month and there's over 200
years ago.
So museums, this is what museums do very well. Museums track species in time and space.
So it could be anywhere, anytime.
That's true.
I can handle this. I can handle this.
While we're talking about a stick insect, it's got you. It's got you.
All right, you got me face.
There you go.
There you go. Everybody at home's been waiting for this. You got your moment.
Don't sneeze. Don't sneeze.
Keep your mouth shut.
Now, I want to show you another stick insect that's got a wonderful, very interesting story about it.
Okay.
It's called the Lord Howe Island stick insect. And it's quite a large stick insect.
That's a huge stick insect.
You can see them here. The ones with the big hind legs are the males.
Wow, they can jump high.
They can jump high, but notice they can't fly. They've got no wings. They've got no wings.
So
now, the interesting story was these occurred just on Lord Howe Island.
Yeah.
And a shipwreck hit the island in 1908. And off the ship came rats.
Yep.
And the rats built up in the population, and by 1920 they had eaten all of the stick insect, and it had become extinct. So it was one of the few examples where we could actually say we know that this insect is extinct. And these specimens were collected about 1908. So the really interesting story was about 2000, some people from the Australian Museum went to a little island just off Lord Howe Island called Ball's Pyramid. And indeed, there's no beaches. You have to jump off a boat that's kind of waving in the sea. You need a climbing licence because it's a steep crag like that. And they got to the very top and on a scraggy little melaleuca, they found a few of the Lord Howe Island stick-ants live. They brought them back to Australia, and we've been breeding them up. And, believe it or not, that's a specimen from 1908.
That's alive, is it?
And here's a live one. Here's
Just what I needed, another one.
So put your hand out, and you can hold a Lord Howe Island.
Does he bite?
And he doesn't bite.
Good.
But they were
Don't
presumed
attack each other. I don't want a war going right here.
They were presumed to be extinct. So we're breeding them up in Melbourne, in Sydney. There's a few places overseas.
It's a female.
It's a female, exactly. Well done. So when we get rid of the rats and the cats on Lord Howe Island, they're going to reintroduce them.
Can you believe that, folks? The black grit is non-soluble, high in calcium, so your plants are going to love it. The fruit and veggies are just going to bounce out of the garden. And you only need 2 scoops like this for a square metre every 3 to 6 months. Unbelievable. How do you sprinkle that out, eh? Look at that. Man, this is going to last me a lifetime. A little bit of blood and bone as well. Won't go astray. Just a light sprinkle. Once you finish adding all your mediums into it, the next stage is to actually turn it over and mix it in nice and well. Now, I like using the coarse bamboo mulch rather than the fine stuff because it's great for the veggie garden. It allows the roots to grow even better and it breaks down slowly so all the microbes feed off that. The fine stuff's fantastic for your flowering beds as a nice feature at the end of it all if you don't have to turn it over. But for this bed here, this stuff here looks fantastic, suits the environment. Hey, let's go dig it in. Coming up next week, we're back at the Melbourne Museum with Dr. Ken Walker to check out some more amazing insects and reptiles. And we're also back in the veggie garden to do some planting and preparing. From me, Vasili, Mares.